Amateur athletics within the NCAA has come to an end. And as we embark on a new era after this House versus NCAA settlement involving the Power Conference, it sure is good to be in the Big Ten.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
Thursday's settlement was a long time coming. Thursday's settlement really for a long time has always been inevitable. And here we are. The Big Ten and the SEC Advisory Committee. It was created for a day like Thursday. When this committee was originally formed, they talked about creating a future, more sustainable model for college athletics. And as we embark on this new era of college football, as we embark on this new era of college athletics, it's Greg Sankey, it's Tony Petitti, it's those administrators in that room that are going to formulate this future, that are going to formulate this model, because this model is going to be created by the powerful. And the conferences in power are going to be the ones with the most revenue. And of course, those are the Big Ten and the SEC. I personally believe that we are moving to an era of full autonomy within these power conferences. I believe whether it's a separate new division or whether it's just these Power Four conferences creating their own set of rules within the structure that is currently set up in the NCAA, I think we're done with the NCAA, at least at the highest level, making rules as it regards to transfers, as it regards to scholarships, as it regards to player movement. I think that era is done. That's 100+ years in the books. It's over. And now the era is going to exist where conferences are going to be at the same table with players, and a resolution is going to be figured out. Although Thursday was a huge day, although Thursday was a landmark day in college athletics, folks, we got a long way to go. We're kind of in this purgatory right now. If you look at that 100+ years of amateurism as the previous era, and then we kind of know what the new era is going to look like, we're in this purgatory, right? It's going to be about 5 to 8 months by the time this case is fully settled. And then after that, and a little bit during that, you're going to have leaders in college athletics that are going to be trying to formulate this plan as part of the settlement agreement. I know there's some back payments that need to be made, and there's some retroactive things that need to be done in this settlement as well. But we know on this channel, we focus on football. And we focus on the future as well. And that's really what I want to get into, because the Big Ten is going to be a leader in the future and on the football field as well, as it pertains to how this settlement really shakes out. There's so much uncertainty right now, but I want to focus in on 2 tweets from Ross Dellinger yesterday that really outline what the future could look like and what we could be talking about on this very channel, maybe at this time next year. Let's start first with rev share. How much? Right now, they're looking about $20 to $22 million annually. There's been some wording, there's been some language about a salary cap as well. Where's it going to come from? It's going to come from schools to the athletes. I want to stop there. I think rev share is going to happen at the conference level. That's where a lot of revenue is distributed to these schools, conferences to schools, and that will eventually come to the athletes as well. That's why I think we're going to get some type of percentage, whether it's 30, 35, 40, 45, 50% of the revenue that the conference distributes is going to go to players. That's going to be your cap, where the Big Ten could say, hey, here is such and such percentage of your annual payout. It ends up being $30 million. Okay, you can spend up to $30 million on your players. Back to the tweet from Ross, I think distribution now in another type of form is something that he mentions in here that I want to focus in on right now. It's at the school's discretion. So if you get right in the middle, $21 million, and you want to put 15 into football, you can rightfully do so. But Title IX also adds another wrench, maybe equal distribution between a men's sport and a women's sport, for which there is the same, like say men's and women's basketball, men's and women's soccer, etc. And you kind of go down from there. If you want to take your $21 million that you have to spend on athletes and you want to put 15 or 16 into football, you really want to invest in that, you can do so. It's just you might have an equal amount distributed for, say, men's and women's basketball, but it might be a little bit less because you're investing so much into football. But if you're somebody like in Indiana, if you're a Kentucky, or if you're maybe somebody that really specializes in the basketball sort of thing, you might push more into that side of things. So we talk about working the cap. I think you're also going to work your distribution in which programs you distribute to. This is something that's going to move pretty quick. This time next year, we could be starting talking about some cap moves as the implementation is looking at the summer or fall of 2025. Now, I know there's that Fontenot versus NCAA case, which is another NIL type of case that could maybe slow things down a little bit, maybe to 2026. But point being, it's going to be pretty soon, probably with the next 1 to 2 years, you could see this type of change. Let's move on to our next tweet and talking specifically about football and football rosters. This settlement could eliminate scholarship caps, the ability to provide scholarships to an entire roster. We've heard rumors that walk-ons could become a thing of the past. You know, as a whole, college football is moving towards an NFL type of model, and all of this screams the NFL type of model with the salary cap and especially these roster limits. We know in the National Football League, there is a 53-man roster limit. The way it sounds like this settlement could move to is you could have an 85-man roster limit. Now, they'll all be on scholarship, of course. The discussion around college football, specifically during this time of year, specifically during the off-season time of year, it's going to look a whole lot different, I think, going forward after this settlement. If we get to some of these salary cap discussions, if we normalize general managers, if we see more general managers, I think a key for a successful college football program going forward is going to be the GM. Now, there may be some head coaches that are going to want to be heavily involved in this process, but having that general manager to manage the cap, that capologist, so to speak, I think is going to be very important because we're kind of seeing it even right now. Different teams are going to manage a different way. Are you going to build through recruiting, aka the draft? Are you going to build through transfers, aka free agency? I think we're kind of seeing that now. And now when you add in a salary structure, you're going to see exactly how a team is going to build a roster going forward, which I love doing that. I play out of the park baseball, which is kind of that cap sort of game where you got to manage certain players as well, although they have a luxury tax over there in baseball. But it's still really fun to be able to cover that. It's still fun to really be able to see that kind of breakdown, and I can't wait to see how college football programs are going to be able to do that, especially with it being brand new. I'm curious to see how maybe lower level teams or maybe your non-blue bloods are going to approach this as well. Because if you have $21 million to play with, if everybody's got that money to play with, or even if you have that percentage distributed, however it is that this salary structure is established, you're going to see some lower level teams. A great example right now is this recruitment for 2025 with 5-star quarterback Julian Lewis, who's committed over there at USC, but Indiana is in the mix. Colorado, of course, is in the mix as well, but we're focused on the Big Ten here. So if you look at the Hoosiers, you have $21 million, and let's say 12 of it goes to football. Let's pump $2 million. Let's pump $3 million and try to get that quarterback into our system. And yeah, maybe we'll take a hit at some of those other positions. How much money is going to be invested into high school players? I think that's going to be something to certainly keep an eye on. And then how much money is going to be invested in some of those transfers? I think how teams manage this salary structure can determine, obviously, if they are successful or unsuccessful in this new era and new model of college football. Right now, success in college football has a lot to do with 3 letters. NIL. Make no mistake about it, NIL isn't going anywhere. Just because we have a salary structure or a salary cap doesn't mean NIL is going out the window. It likely means that NIL is moving in-house. It likely means that there is not a third party on the outside of the players and the rosters and the athletic departments as well. It likely means that NIL is going to be operated under the roof of the university athletic department, which I think brings a little bit more flexibility. And I think it also means that universities are going to push NIL that much more, even though some universities are pushing it pretty dang hard right now. But NIL, I think, is going to be leaned upon to really go above and beyond on your football roster. And I think NIL is going to be a big part of maybe maintaining some of these lower level Olympic sports as well, to be able to bring in that extra flow of cash to be able to still have soccer and gymnastics and rowing and other sports like that within a university athletic department. It would not surprise me if we see something like jersey patches and more elaborated private sponsorships within these athletic programs as well. It would not surprise me to see, for example, a Microsoft logo on a Washington football player's jersey, and then in exchange they have to promote that brand in exchange for that, very similar to how it is now. You can't limit NIL. That's just not legal. I know it's kind of been said in this settlement that they're going to try to maybe rein in NIL a little bit more, have some oversight and maybe some audits on NIL a little bit. I just find it very difficult to believe how you can really rein it in that much. I think you're opening yourself up for big time lawsuits if you do that. So NIL is not going anywhere. It's just not. It might change a little bit. It might be a little bit more refined being under a university umbrella, but NIL is certainly here to stay. And the programs that I think want to compete, so you have the Big Ten and the SEC, right, and the financial advantage that they're going to have. Then you look at the upper tiers of those respective conferences. I think the teams that really invest into that in-house NIL are going to be the teams that are going to be more successful at the top of the Power 2. Boy, you thought these last couple of summers were crazy. Texas and OU to the SEC, USC and UCLA to the Big Ten, Oregon and Washington to the Big Ten, and the complete restructuring of the Big 12 and the death of the Pac-12. This summer, with all of this completely restructuring and reshaping what college football and college athletic is, that's when things are really about to get crazy. I think we're going to see more realignment discussion and more realignment moves be more vocalized as a result of this, because I think more programs specifically, we've talked about this on this channel, those really good programs in the ACC are going to look to get to the Big Ten and the SEC a little bit quicker as well, especially if this thing is starting in 2025 or 2026. I want to hear your thoughts. It's a completely new model. It's completely different, but that's okay. We're still going to love college football. We're still going to love the Big Ten on this channel, and I'm sure you will as well. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, whether you agree, whether you disagree on some of this. I want to hear all about it. I'm Big Ten Ted. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.